crazy out there. And they are rapidly developing a method of blowing up a major U.S. city, and people just can't believe that's happening. But yes, it's really significant what's happening.
That is Senator Inhofe of Oklahoma, a pretty good guy overall when you talk about establishment Republicans. And when he starts talking like that, you've got to be really concerned. Al-Qaeda is real. It's renamed itself ISIS or IS. And I don't like to toot my own horn because we're so busy covering the latest news as it breaks. But people tend to pay attention to what you say when you can show them a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago, saying Al-Qaeda in Iraq is being deployed into Syria, armed by the NATO forces, funded by Saudi Arabia, directed by the CIA. That was all in foreign newspapers. That was all in the Gulf newspapers. That was in the Israeli newspapers. This is not my opinion. Remember Rand Paul and Ted Cruz talked about it? Hey, we shouldn't be Al-Qaeda's Air Force. And now they're on the news saying we've got to attack Syria because the Syrian civil war has allowed ISIS to have a base, or Al-Qaeda. When it's our government and globalist criminals worldwide that started this whole thing to begin with in 1979 and 1983. I have interviewed the Special Forces commanders and the Army commanders, Colonel Schaefer, you name it, who publicly ran the programs to kill Al-Qaeda leaders and were ordered to stand down. Twice in the week before 9/11 to kill Osama bin Laden. Operation Stratus Ivy. By the way, I want to get Schaefer on, if we can do that. I know he has to jump through a lot of hoops to come on because they call him into the Pentagon. He still consults and advises to the Army War College and scream at him whenever he comes on. But seriously, let's twist his arm and get him on the show. I want to get his take on all of this. So it's a real threat. They're going to have the neocons and fake conservatives write news articles saying that I'm saying ISIS doesn't exist when they blow up a sports stadium or blow up a bunch of major skyscrapers or, God forbid, smuggle a nuclear weapon in. That's not what I said. I said, you funded them, you protected them, and you're going to get the blame when it happens. You're not going to shut down the press and take my guns and roll your MRAPs out against the Tea Party. Because let me tell you something, the neocons are manipulating Obama. The Democrats and the neocons at the highest levels are basically the same cabal. And I have told you for years, as soon as Al-Qaeda's done taking part of Iraq and Syria, they're going to rename themselves to confuse the public. I mean, they're following like pancake recipe or something. This is shake and bake. It's formulaic. And they are going to hit the West. And I predict they're going to start out with surface-to-air missiles with 10,000-foot ceilings shooting airliners down. They could deploy these all over Europe and all over the United States. And, I mean, if they've got 15,000 of them, they could easily smuggle in hundreds. And they could, at one time, say 9:01 a.m., park 2 miles from every major airport and shoot down 100 airplanes in 1 hour. You know what happens when a plane's taken off at 3,000 or 4,000 feet and its engine gets hit by a missile? It crashes. Everybody dies. Sometimes if one gets hit by a missile at 10,000 feet, they can get it back to the ground. And I've got these ISIS people being allowed to run free all over the country, sending us threats, you name it. They're allowed to operate on Twitter and Facebook, but we're not. We're censored. I tried to put a Rick Perry video out, his defense video, last night on Facebook, and it wasn't letting me.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. And now you can protect yourself from corrupt cops with the InfoWars dash cam. It's your car's black box that records all that the driver sees and hears. And introducing the Block It Pocket. It renders your phone undetectable while protecting your private data and your health. Or take back your privacy and protect your personal information by getting your very own Detractor cell phone pouch. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
Senator Inhofe told Fox News in Oklahoma City in a detailed sit-down interview that's up on InfoWars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, and DrudgeReport.com. He told Fox 25 that ISIS is developing an operation to blow up a major city. Now, that's what they're feeding the senator in the Intelligence Committee. He's a senior senator, obviously, and has access to all that. They're going to be allowed to attack us, and it will be bigger than 9/11, my gut tells me. It's going to be airliners getting shot down, buildings being blown up, nerve gas being dumped down ventilation shafts on buildings. This is the kind of stuff they're working on. Hell, they may even launch a chemical attack and say Chicago or L.A., or Austin for that matter, and blame it on Assad. And our media will say Assad did it, and it will say he's al-Qaeda. They've already been doing that over there. And Turkey got caught and Saudi Arabia got caught giving them the nerve gas. It came out in the UN and the BBC months after we documented it that it was a staged chemical attack to set up Assad. And I've got people talking to me on the street, and I see it on the news about, yeah, we didn't take Assad out, so now this is happening. Yeah, we didn't let Hitler do what he wanted to. So, I mean, it's just absolute brainwashing with a public that doesn't even know who the players are. Al-Qaeda in Iraq 4 years ago was allowed to set up bases in the west of Iraq and invade eastern Syria. They started the civil war 4 years ago in Syria. They were given massive funding. They're 65%, according to NATO, of the rebel force. The Council on Foreign Relations last year had the headline, "Why We Need Al-Qaeda." And they said, give them air support to take over the country and we'll remove them later. Bull. Saudi Arabia since 1901, officially set up in 1931, but it was established by British intelligence in a multi-hundred square mile area in the middle of the desert, giving a radical jihadi group weapons to take over the entire region and set up Saudi Arabia. They took over Syria. They took over where the old Turkish Empire or the Ottoman Empire collapsed. Okay? So that's a fact, but the system thinks you're so dumb. That now they can say, see, we need Homeland Security and the MRAPs. They're saying that in the news. And we need checkpoints. And we need total NSA surveillance because ISIS and Al-Qaeda and IS, all the same group. They all have the same flags. They say they're Al-Qaeda. That is just Western names to confuse everyone. Al-Qaeda has established an Islamic State in eastern Syria and western Iraq. That's a fact. To launch attacks worldwide. They were given Afghanistan before. They've been trying to find a home. They've been given the home by NATO, and now our military is only bombing them so the public doesn't figure out that our government's behind Al-Qaeda. And because they've got to paint by the numbers and stay in that area they've been given. We have a deal with Iran to give them the east, to give the Kurds the north of Iraq, and to give IS, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, the western area. That is official. That has been out for years. That has been the plan to partition Iraq. This is all discussed on C-SPAN. It's all discussed at the Brookings Institute. It's all discussed at the Council on Foreign Relations. It's in all the military Jane's Weapons quarterly breakdowns. Anyone who's actually a policy person knows this, okay? So understand, everyone at the CIA knows, all the military brass know, even the enlisted know. That's why they rebelled last year and said, we don't want to bomb Syria for Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda is much worse than Assad. We will not morally join with Sauron. And that was a magic moment. for our military rediscovering their morals, rediscovering their mission, rediscovering the Constitution, rediscovering the moral high ground. And I wept driving home one day, just tears ran down my face of joy when thousands of military officers, Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, would cover their faces in uniform, active duty, and hold up signs saying, "I will not fight for al-Qaeda in Syria," Infowars.com under it. Wasn't even my idea. They just did it. And then Senator Paul and Senator Cruz came out and said the same thing, and we had a victory. And General Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, went on that Saturday night to the White House at midnight and told Obama the military is going to mutiny if you do this. Even the top generals say this is immoral. We're losing the moral high ground. The world's going to learn that we are helping al-Qaeda. You cannot do it. And again, a lot of them said Infowars.com. Most of them didn't say Infowars.com on their signs, but a lot of them did. But, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just al-Qaeda in Iraq that's being funded. The border, since the start of the year, 8 months has been wide open. We were warned about 6 months ago by the head of the Border Patrol Union, the head of the retired union, and a bunch of senior members of their intelligence panel, committee, roundtable. They leaked it all. They had federal gag orders put on them. The feds are trying to prosecute senior Border Patrol people, saying they violated national security, pointing out that they were ordered to receive the illegals being bussed in, take whatever fake ID or no ID and bust them wherever they want. Thousands of nationals out of Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Pakistan, Afghanistan are coming across. Chinese workers will work a decade to raise $10,000 to $30,000 just to get snuck across by coyotes. And the Democratic Party is being paid off large portions of that cash to allow this flood. But you put 2 and 2 together, and it's all coming together. And I said this a year ago. I said this 6 months ago. I said it last month, and I'm getting the worst chills I have ever had right now. Okay, my gut is just absolutely on fire right now. And I have told you hundreds of times exactly what their battle plan is because I can see what they're setting up. I can see what they're pre-scripting in the media, getting everybody ready for. Obama says the #1 threat he sees is a nuke going off in Manhattan, and he doesn't know who will be behind it. Inhofe has been told on the Intelligence Committee that ISIS is preparing to blow up a U.S. city.
They're crazy out there. And they are rapidly developing a method of blowing up a major U.S. city. And people just can't believe that's happening. But yes, it's really significant what's happening. Now,
all of that's going on. The full interview's up on Infowars.com. Senator Inhofe warns of political... I'm having a Freudian slip, it's political propaganda. Senator Inhofe warns of potential terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. So the border's wide open so they can have plausible deniability. Al-Qaeda is showing up at the White House with ISIS flags. They're sending threats to TV and radio stations. We've been threatened by them. Ominous tweet connects ISIS threat in Chicago. CBS. That is the type of stuff that's unfolding here. So, we are now wide open. They are now doing what they did right before 9/11, saying we're about to get hit by al-Qaeda. When al-Qaeda hits, we got to take all your rights away. Now repeat back to me. We're about to get hit by al-Qaeda. We give up all of our rights when they do attack us. And it doesn't matter that this group's being funded out of Saudi Arabia again. Doesn't matter it's being armed and given intelligence by NATO again. It doesn't matter. When they hit the United States or Europe, you can bet your bottom dollar they will attack an innocent country. See, they follow the same script. Saudi Arabia attacks us on 9/11. We attack Iraq. They're our arch enemy. We get attacked by al-Qaeda, who's been attacking Syria. When they attack us, we will attack Syria, who's fighting them. You see how that works? And by the way, that's already proven, because you notice now they're saying we got to take Assad out because the civil war going on too long has allowed al-Qaeda to get a foothold when our government gave them the weapons and the foothold. That's why I get so mad at people being obsessed with sports. Because men know all about sports scores, all about the facts and things, and will argue with each other like it's military strategy and strategic thinking. They have the brain centers to do that, but they know about their male soap opera of the simulated battle, not the real war game going on against all of humanity right now. I need people to figure out the players here.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
This is not my opinion. Criminal globalist elements are funding and protecting the most nasty form of radical Islam and letting it set up all over the country and green lighting it to hit the streets and to destabilize the country, to then form a clash of civilizations. And the average American is so geopolitically ignorant that when the Saudi Arabian-funded groups attack this country, our military will then crush poor, non-radical Muslims that wear suits and ties, and their women go to college and have freedom. We will then blow up their major cities, turn them over to al-Qaeda to be murdered in mass. 300,000+ in 4 years in Syria killed conservatively. Well over 50,000 dead in the last few months in Iraq, murdered. Men, women, children, police officers, Iraqi army trained by our military, good men. They're being murdered. And our filthy, evil government is right in the middle of coordinating the whole thing. And that's how stupid they think we are. They can get away with basically anything at this point. And then when we hear, oh, we're attacking ISIS, sure, I hope ISIS gets blown up. But who put them there? Who protected them? They're not. They're doing a few bombings of a few trucks and a few artillery pieces. And then now baiting and switching, as I said they do a few weeks ago, to say we've got to take out Assad. And I had people this morning coming up to me saying, I've been hearing your show about ISIS. We need to take them all out, Assad too. Just the mindless primitiveness of this. And the guy I was talking to is a successful corporate guy, was in military intelligence, did CIA work. I know in Vietnam is a smart guy, but still at a primitive level, let's just kill them all. When I was at the gym talking to this fella. And I didn't even argue with him. It's just like, yeah, I mean, let's attack Australia if al-Qaeda, known as IS, attacks us. And by the way, that's not a joke. They're using the terror attacks and the threat of them to take all of our freedoms. And behind the scenes, Homeland Security doesn't train to fight radical Muslims or al-Qaeda or IS or ISIS, all these names to confuse the sheeple. They train to fight who? This is public. Their words, not mine. Returning veterans, gun owners, Christians, libertarians, constitutionalists, and conservatives in general. Who do they target with the IRS and the FBI? Who do they target with the MRAPs, the Tea Party? They have those out at rallies at the Tea Party and the sound cannons, the LRADs. This is just today. Iraq militants killed 64 in attack on Sunni mosque, AP. They went in, blew up the whole thing of churchgoers, basically, and killed them. British Muslims blame jihad subculture after beheading video. Reuters. Jewish school in Copenhagen vandalized. Argentina's, that's just some of the news we've got on devaluation of currencies I'm going to get to. More ISIS news. Republican ISIS developing means to blow up a U.S. city. That's Inhofe, the senator. The U.S. begins selling Syria intervention, close quote, using ISIS as the pretext. U.S. general says raiding Syria is key to halting ISIS. ISIS offered to swap Foley for Lady al-Qaeda terrorist, wanted scientist who was caught with plans for mass casualty attack with a dirty bomb, Ebola, and a chemical weapon that, quote, spared children. I'm going to get into this report. Another report detailing it at Infowars.com. You do realize the U.S. funded and trained ISIS, right? Meanwhile, from Australia to the U.S., parents are having their children taken for letting them play in the park or staying at home alone, even when they're 15 years old. It's up to 15 now. Ladies and gentlemen, one reason the globalists are so hard to beat is they are so over the top. Saudi Arabia was clearly involved in 9/11. We attack Iraq. Syria is fighting al-Qaeda, trying to make deals with Israel for a decade, trying to join the West. They get attacked by al-Qaeda, and now our government's saying attack the Syrian government to stop al-Qaeda. That is so criminal and so over the top. But it's our military last year and earlier this year that said no to the open Syrian intervention to overthrow Assad, who's been democratizing, and his secular military. What did our government try to do? They backed overthrowing our ally, the secular government, Hosni Mubarak, 33 years in control of Egypt. Now Israel is running around with Netanyahu saying, you know, ISIS might be a good thing to destabilize the Middle East. That's immoral. That loses the moral high ground. That's because the West has decided to join with Saudi Arabia and al-Qaeda and to let them take over the whole Middle East. There's another triple cross where they claim they're doubling back with Iran and actually attacking ISIS forces in a deal with Iran. Yes, if ISIS gets out of the area they've been given. Because, again, they don't fully control ISIS. They're just funding them, protecting them, and turning them loose. Look at this headline right here. Former Homeland Security advisor, and we have the clip coming up, very, very true, ISIS may have crossed the border.
What do you make of these reports of ISIS collaborating with Mexican drug cartels to exploit our southern border?
Yeah, I think that Governor Perry's words are unfortunately very, very true. We have seen this administration and the lack of security, a lack of policy along the U.S. border. But I think more importantly, they have really shown, this administration has really shown a lack of understanding. They've absolutely underestimated the threat.
So they're all playing dumb now. Oh, Obama didn't know. Oh, the attack's coming. They're going to blow up a big city. They are allowing al-Qaeda to come into the country. They are crawling all over us. They are having demonstrations in every U.S. city, along with other Muslims that are legitimately concerned about problems in Palestine and other issues. But in amongst them are the ISIS flags. In amongst them are the Wahhabist jihadis that are funded by Saudi Arabia and NATO. And they have turned loose an army. How many times have I said, how many hundreds of times, that al-Qaeda is the secret army of the New World Order, the destabilizing force worldwide? And now you're seeing it. Our borders are down. They're telling us, brace for al-Qaeda ISIS attack. Our government turned them loose, protected them, set them up when al-Qaeda had been decimated and reduced. And now they're back. They're in Ferguson saying ISIS is here. And I see all these trendy liberals online cheering on the jihad and cheering on the Arab Spring that was funded by Google and the Ford Foundation and George Soros's Open Society group publicly. It's part of the global destabilization. If you are a veteran and fought against al-Qaeda in Iraq, if you lost a leg or lost a buddy or got shot, I know my cousin has lost so many friends to Al-Qaeda and the Haqqani Network and the rest of them. That's why he continues to go back into combat. Been in the Army 31 years. 31 years, more than 20 tours. It's like 50-something years old. They got old guys, folks, where they even understand our government's funding them at a certain level. They don't care. They want to go fight these guys because they've killed their buddies. This is so sick how they manipulate our own tribalism. I want to hear from active duty, but also people that have been victims of Al-Qaeda. Is it not clear what's happening, how we're being set up? Al-Qaeda is being led into attack as the political diversion so martial law can come into place. They're saying a whole city could be blown up. That means a nuke. And you've got Obama saying, my main fear is a nuke going off in New York. Let's get that clip if we can. And then you've got missing nukes from Dyess Air Force Base that weren't even supposed to be there. We had this from high-level witnesses that saw it. High level, that's all I'm going to say, who physically went out and stopped the trucks coming off saying, you got to have paperwork. And the base commander came out and said, here's the paperwork. It's ordered by the president. Now get out of the way. There was a confrontation. This happened. And then within 24 hours, Senator Lindsey Graham was running around on the Intelligence Committee on CBS News saying, brace for nuclear bombs to go off in the Carolinas and in New York City if we don't take down Assad. Al-Qaeda will hit us. Assad's fighting Al-Qaeda. So you can see him putting the narrative out. That makes no sense. Why would we be nuked by Al-Qaeda if we didn't take out Assad? Or was there a deal? Is it going to be criminal elements, the Democratic Party, that shut off a nuke? Is it going to be a foreign power? Is it going to be ISIS themselves? I don't know. But I can see the total setup for plausible deniability going on right now. And notice, we were saying this before there was any evidence of it. Because I could see the programming in the media, the preparations, the digging in. And so we get hit. A major city goes up in flames. There's only one thing that can take out a whole city. One thing man-made that'll take out a whole city, and that's an atomic or hydrogen bomb. Remember Obama? About a month after I said there was missing nukes? And we had missing nukes from Minot, North Dakota in 2007 that showed up at the Air Force Base in Louisiana. And I remember that was in the Liberty-based media days before it broke. It was a, quote, conspiracy theory. And then they killed a bunch of people at the base that had witnessed what went on. They were trying to disappear and ship cruise missiles to the Middle East loaded with high-tech hydrogen bombs, hydrogen warheads. There's a bunch of weird stuff going on, folks. And everybody better have their eyes open. Toll-free number to join us for police, military, you name it. You guys let me know when you have that Obama clip. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Is there any other way to see what's happening here? How do you take down America if you're globalist criminals? You fund radical terrorists to attack the country. You use that terror attack as the pretext to bring in martial law, while the true training of the NATO and Northcom military, this is Forbes magazine, Associated Press, Reuters, Washington Post, is to have a war with the patriots who follow the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and are Americans. There is no way to debate what's happening. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, You in Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com.